Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Good.
Better now.
Good.
Tony, what's up, buddy?
Happy holidays, Richie.
You too, bud.
Paul, how are you doing?
Good. What's new with you?
Not much. Tough for your Giants yesterday.
Yeah, well, it was a good run.
Yeah.
And it's not over yet.
No, it's not over by any means. I think it's over for my Cowboys. It's terrible. We won, and we have, now our draft pick is not nearly as good as it once was. So.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? If the Giants somehow pull this out and win the division, they won't get a pick better than the last 12 or something.
Yep.
With a horrible record.
And you won't go anywhere in the playoffs either. Neither will the Cowboys or the Redskins, I don't think, or the football team, I guess. No.
Yeah.
Could be worse. Could be a Niners.
I can't see it now.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
So, Gary, I think, was watching the Niner game yesterday. Mr. Francione, yes? No?
No comment.
Okay. Rich, a football fan? Are you a Niner fan or?
I'm a Niner fan. By transplant. I was a Giant fan growing up because I grew up back in New York.
Sure.
Yeah.
During their heyday, with Sims and those guys, Parcells. Being out west now, the Cardinals really don't give me much to cheer for here in Phoenix. So I kind of pull for the Niners, and you get to know some of those guys doing some of their wine events and stuff. So you kind of pull for them and wish them the best. It does not very good this year though. So
No.
The injuries.
The Arizona 49ers.
yeah. I actually thought a couple weeks ago, maybe I'll go to the game. I'm like, I don't even know if they're letting people in.
How would that be?
Then I said, what am I thinking? They're 4-6 or whatever they were. I'm like, I'm staying home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Are they letting people in there or not?
I heard that there was nobody there the game 2 weeks ago. I don't know about yesterday.
Okay.
It was pretty empty.
Yeah.
Gary and I were joking that they did import the foghorn for the Niner games there, and the ridiculous third down, that kind of, all the different chants and stuff that they do at the game. They managed to bring those in. So,
Yeah. Now they're trying.
yeah. So we'll get started in about a minute. We still got some people joining, and then we'll get it going. Feel free, pop open a bottle of wine. We're starting out with the Chardonnay right here, Red Stitch Chard from the Sierra Mar vineyard.
Love me some Sierra Mar.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to tell you, everybody, there is at the bottom of the screen a chat button, so that if you have questions, comments, please use that. I'm going to mute everybody to start out with, and then Richie and I will be talking. But when you have questions, use that chat function, and we will go from there. So let's get the show on the road here. And Richie, I think you may need to unmute yourself.
There you go.
You got it? Perfect.
Yep.
Good. Well, thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here and with this distinguished group here. I really appreciate it. As I said, please, everybody, start out with some wine in hand. We are much more entertaining and interesting if you're drinking the whole time. So Rich, I know some people are here to talk about wine and Red Stitch and your winery. I know some are going to want to talk about baseball. I wanted to start out asking you about, you were juror number 9 on General Hospital at one point in time. Your soap opera history here. Is that true?
That is true. It's funny. I'm still waiting for my SAG card, but I don't think I'm going to get it because I didn't have a line. The short of the story is, a former teammate of mine, for all you Giants fans listening in, Marvin Bernard, he was my roommate, like, when I got to the big leagues. Like, when I got to big leagues, we still had roommates on the road at the hotels. So we just started talking, and he was like, yeah, he goes, you ever hear of General Hospital? The soap? I'm like, yeah. I said, I watched it as a kid because my mom would watch it. And so I knew it. I knew the characters, whatever. And he goes, yeah, this guy from Martinez, California up here, like, says he's like a relative of mine. And I'm like, well, who are you talking about? He goes, I don't know, some guy that plays like a mobster on the show. Like, I think his name is Maurice Bernard. And I'm like, well, pretty good chance you're related with the same last name and you're both Nicaraguan or whatever. So the short story is, we go to play the Dodgers. He's in the stands one day watching the game. Marvin met him, invited him. And I came out after the game, and all the fans, families were still in the stands. And I got to meet him. And, I mean, we hit it off right away. He's a huge Giants Niners fan. Grew up in Martinez. We were friends for years now. And, he's one of the most known soap actors out there. So right after we lost the World Series in 2002, he called me and said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And I'm like, nothing. He goes, you want to come out on a Thursday and be on the jury in my murder case on the show? He goes, 9 of the other jurors are going to be like people from my fan club that we like, just, kind of like they want a prize and they're coming in. So I said, yeah, I'll come out. So we filmed for 2 days, Friday and Monday. So I stayed the whole weekend. I was juror what number was it?
Number 9. I believe.
Number 9?
Yes.
And all I know is they came out of one commercial break with like the camera on one juror, and they backed it out, and it was juror number 9. And that was my claim to fame on General Hospital in 2002. So that was the extent of my acting career. I think it was done after that.
Yeah, congratulations. I tried looking it up on IMDb or whatever that database is, and somehow that didn't make it in there. But
no, did not make it in there.
So, so talk to me about baseball. I mean, I know you've got a young child. I've got kids not young enough for baseball or for early baseball any longer. But did you always play baseball? Baseball was always a real commitment as far as your kids getting them to play. Like with basketball, you could go play one-on-one real easy. And I guess, you could do a pitcher and a batter, but any ball you hit, nobody catches it if it's just 2 people, that kind of thing. It's a real commitment when you play baseball. Was that always your sport, or did you do other sports growing up?
I mean, from as far back as I can remember, I was playing baseball. And you're right about that. It's a sport where you can't really do it on your own. You kind of have to have other people around, whether it's to, play the field or to pitch to you or to hit you ground balls or whatever. But as a kid, I pretty much did everything. I didn't play like tackle football. Mm-hmm. I played like flag. I played baseball. I played basketball. And growing up back east, I mean, the baseball season only really consisted of April until, school started because the weather got kind of cold. And then basketball was kind of like my winter workout, because we were in the gym all the time inside. But it is, I mean, it's a commitment, especially nowadays. I think the game has changed so much where I'd say 75% of this country, kids that play baseball play all year round now. Yeah. Which for me, I'm not a huge proponent of. I think especially with younger kids, I think it can cause injury for overuse. But if it's done the right way, it does have its benefits. But it is a total commitment, and that's why I was pretty happy when my 2 older boys, they're 19 and 17, when they were about to they were about 10 years old or 11 years old, and they said they didn't want to play baseball anymore, and they wanted to golf.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, that's something I personally don't really have to commit to too much, because I don't have to be part of practices or all the games. And, it's an individual sport. So that's what my boys do now, and they have for a while. But yeah, it's a huge, huge commitment, and it's changed so much now.
Is it hard to go back? I mean, this is kind of off topic, but is it hard to go back and forth, a swing from baseball to a swing for golf? I mean, I've heard that from some people.
People always said that golf would ruin your baseball swing, so don't play golf during the baseball season. I actually found it to be the opposite. The swings are similar, just a little bit different with some of the mechanics. But I realized when I played baseball, it's all like your power is all hip related. You got to turn the hips quick to get your power. It's all in your lower half. Where golf is almost like your lower half kind of drags a little bit, and it comes through kind of after impact. So I would notice when I would golf during the baseball season, every ball I would hit would go directly left. I'd shank it left because my hips were so used to just like getting through the baseball really quick. So I'd open up too quick and I'd pull everything left. I don't have that problem anymore because I'm not playing much baseball. But I wish it would translate into my golf game getting a lot better. It has gotten better, not a ton, but yeah, it's they're very similar. I wouldn't tell somebody that it totally messes up a swing either way. It's just you have to compartmentalize each swing.
I'm glad to hear that baseball didn't help your golf game. I always got pissed off as a Dallas Cowboy fan to see Tony Romo out there being a scratch golfer. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, win a playoff game, man. Don't play as much time out of the golf course. Come on.
I know. I got to meet him last year at the AT&T at Pebble Beach. He was playing a practice round with Matt Kuchar. And my partner, John, had known Matt Kuchar a little bit. And I mean, Tony Romo really thinks he can do it and play. Like, he can play on tour. And I know he's gotten some exemptions, but I also know, because my kids keep me up on all this amateur golf stuff because they're really good and really into it. He played an amateur event in Texas last week with basically like probably a bunch of high school and college kids. And he finished DFL. So, it's harder than he thinks.
Well, he's doing okay from what I've seen contract-wise announcing. So
yeah, I think he's doing all right.
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry that much about it. So at what point along the baseball path did you realize, okay, this is going to be huge for you? I mean, college, obviously, but then is there an assurance that you're going to get drafted? Did you feel strongly like that was going to happen?
No, I heard rumors out of high school that I could possibly be drafted relatively high in the draft, meaning like the first 5 rounds. I had already committed to a full scholarship to St. John's in New York, and unless I was blown out of the water by an offer, I was going to go to school anyway. But then I went to St. John's. I played 3 years there, and I did get drafted, but not very high. I was a 24th round draft pick, so it wasn't. There wasn't a lot there for me to choose from. But I just made the decision. I was always a good student, and I said I can always go back and finish my last year. Let me give myself a little time frame. I'll try this, see how it goes, and if I make it, I make it. If I don't, I have something to fall back on. So the question always arises, when do you know, like, when did you know you were going to make it? And I answered this question the other day on a call. I knew I was going to make it when I got called in by my AAA manager, and he said, hey, great season, season's over, you're going to the big leagues tomorrow. And that was in September of 1995. That's when I knew it was a reality, because it's such a hard sport with so many people playing it's not always about talent. It's the right place at the right time, right organization, good health. There's a lot of things that come into play. And, I never really felt like it was a no-brainer for me. But it was a lot of hard work once I got there. It was probably harder work once I got there than to get there.
So you were like fortuitous also in some ways. I mean, you were drafted, I think, by the Rangers, but then you ended up with the Giants through a trade or whatever. I mean, as you said, right place, right time. And who knows where things would have been had you not been involved. It was a
Well-
trade, right? That brought you
well-
over to the Giants.
Well, yeah, and the strange thing is, I mean, the strike in 1994 is probably a bad memory for every baseball fan because everybody was mad that the players went out on strike in August. For me, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because I wasn't a major league player at the time and I wasn't on a major league roster or 40-man roster. So I wasn't protected by anything. So we kept playing in the minor leagues, and I was with the Rangers playing out of Tulsa, Oklahoma in Double-A. And I wasn't having a very good year, but the Giants Double-A team that year in Shreveport, Louisiana, was the best minor league team in baseball out of all levels that year. So when the strike hit, the Giants brass sent all their coaching staff to come watch their best prospects at Double-A. And we had 2 series against them, and it was a small league. So we had 5-game series, 5-game series. We played somebody else in another 5 games. And their host, Dusty Baker, Wendell Kim, Bob Lillis, I think Dick Pohl was a pitching coach. All their coaches were there watching. And I had the best 3 weeks I had in my year that year while they were there. Strike is going on the whole off season, and I get traded to December 23rd, right before Christmas. And I got traded to the Giants. I got a call from the Rangers guy, and he said, "Hey, Rich, it's so-and-so, director of whatever. Hey, just want to let you know you've been traded. Good luck to you, and I hope to see you down the road." He didn't even tell me who I got traded to, who I got traded for. And then I got a call from one of my buddies, my roommates from college, saying, "Dude, it just came across the ticker on the bottom of ESPN. You got traded for John Burkett." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm going to the Giants." So that's how that came about. But again, I was in the right place, the right time. The strike actually benefited me individually because those guys would have never gotten a chance. Dusty Baker would have never seen me play if it wasn't for that strike.
And it seemed like obviously things with the Giants just seemed to be a natural fit in a lot of ways. I mean, worked out well for you. I don't know. I mean, maybe that isn't the case, but it seems that way from the outside.
Well, yeah, it did. And, out of my 15 years, I played, 11 and a half of them for the Giants, or 12 of them. And, I think I was very fortunate in the sense that I got there right before the little renaissance hit in 97 when they traded Matt Williams to the Indians and Jeff Kent came over. And so I think that was a year we really started turning things around. And 96 was my first year in the big leagues for a full season. So I was fortunate in that sense. But from day one, that organization treats everybody that plays there like their family. And they still do to this day. And I'll always be thankful for them for that and how they treated me right out of the gate. And, it's funny. The first time I actually talked to Dusty on a phone when I got traded, he called me on, this was before I had a cell phone. This was fall of 94. And he's like, "Hey, is this Richie?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Richie." He goes, "Hey, it's Dusty." I'm like, "Hey, Dusty." And he starts rambling in Spanish to me. And I'm like, what's going on? I said, hey, Dusty, hey, I don't speak Spanish. I understand a little of it. He goes, "Man, my boy Davey Lopes, who you played for in the Arizona Fall League last year, said you were Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and I thought you spoke Spanish." I said, "No, just an Italian kid from Brooklyn, man. I don't." He goes, "Oh, it's not a really yo?" I'm like, "No, it's a really and then that's how we got off. Our relationship got off on that foot. But the Giants have always been great to me. They continue to be great to me.
So one of the things, too, I was kind of interested in being a shortstop. You're involved in a lot of plays. I mean, it's integral. I mean, not every position. You only got 9 out there, but, right fielder, there can be innings that things don't really go on all that much. What is that a different sense of belonging as far as the team goes?
I think it's just a different sense of responsibility. It's different when you're a younger player and you're a rookie, because then you're just trying to find your way and feel your way around and not say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. But once you play a little bit, you hear all the times about organizations, how they want to build their teams. You want to build it strong up the middle. So you want to have a good guy behind the plate. You want to have a solid rotation and a solid bullpen. And then you want a good crew up the middle and short and second, and you want a good center fielder who can go get the ball out there. And hopefully they can all contribute offensively. So once I started getting my feet wet, I kind of knew that I was, one of the de facto leaders on the field. And, it was weird. Once we got Jeff Kent, Jeff wasn't he was a surly kind of guy. So like, he wasn't a leader kind of guy where people would follow what he was saying or to do. He's a great player. I take him on my team any day, but he was a guy that would go to the mound and, some of the coaches would be like, hey, you get your ass on that mound before Jeff gets there so they don't have to hear what he has to say. I'm like, all right. So, I knew at that point I had to kind of take that leadership role on the infield or in the middle of the field. And I tried to do that throughout my whole career, even when I changed positions.
So 2 other quick baseball questions, then we'll get into where wine started for you in this whole thing too. But I did read that you were the first player ever to hit a grand slam in an interleague game. Is that right?
I actually was – I was the first official one.
Okay.
2 days prior, Gary Sheffield hit one when he was playing for the Marlins. I don't know against who, but the game got rained out after 3 innings, so it totally got washed away. And then a couple of days later, I hit one. So and I hit it off an ex-teammate. I hit it off. He was a guy I played against in college. In high school. And he was an ex-teammate with the Giants the year before. So it was kind of like, for me, it was bittersweet because he was one of my best buddies, and I hit a grand slam off. But it was really nice. The whole scenario of like the Hall of Fame sends you a letter, and it's, notarized and authorized and saying like, will you donate your bat? And it'll be in your Hall of Fame forever. And so I did all that, which was really, really kind of cool.
Well, it is cool because in thinking about it, I was like, when you set a record, if it's hits or home runs or whatever, there's always somebody who can beat your record. When you're first,
that's it.
That is it. That's pretty cool.
And it's funny because I did a call the other night with Dave Roberts, and we were talking about our careers and stuff. And, and I don't, listen, I don't talk a lot about my career. I really enjoyed it, but like, it's nice to look back at certain things now. And one thing I think a lot of people don't know, and I shared this the other night, and I like sharing it in small groups. I don't like sharing it in big groups because then it just makes it look like I'm trying to get the word out on it. But one of the things I'm really proud of is in 2001, Bonds and he hit 73 homers. I hit 37. We combined for 110 home runs. There's only one duo that, as teammates, has us beat all time, and that's Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle with the Yankees. So I'm kind of really proud to have that. Not a lot of people know that, but it's something that I really am proud of doing because, I told him, I'm like, I hit 37. Nobody expected that. You should have hit 5 more or 6 more so we would have been first. Everybody expected you to hit 80. So
I was at the game where he tied Aaron's home run record. So
yeah,
that was fun. That year also, though, that was the other thing. Was that you led the league in hits, I think, and you batted what 330 something, or that was a remarkable season for you.
Yeah, I had a great year, and the one thing I could point it to 2 things. One, I stayed healthy the whole year. There wasn't one day of that season where I had a sore hamstring or anything. I was healthy the whole year. I think I played 156 games. And 2, that was a year they moved me into the second spot in the lineup, and I wasn't very happy about it when it came out in spring training because I was doing well hitting in the 7th spot. And Dusty called me in and said, hey, listen, you're going to be hitting in front of Barry. Don't change anything you do. He goes, you're the best fastball hitter we have on this team. He goes, and I'm going to put you in a position to take advantage of that, and you're going to get a lot more pitches to hit. And you know what? He was right. I didn't change anything I did. I don't want to say I got fastballs right down the middle because I didn't. I got a lot better pitches to hit, and I took advantage of it. But again, like it goes to show you how like aspects of the game has changed. Where I led the league in hits. I had 206 hits. I hit 324, which didn't even finish in the top 10.
Wow.
I think I was like 11th. And then I want to say I finished 12th in MVP voting. Where like, I did this today just historically looking, because I was reading about the A's shortstop, Marcus Semien, who's a free agent. And they were saying like 2 years ago, he had an MVP type year. He finished third in MVP voting. I was like, oh, let me go look at his numbers, because I really don't follow the A's too much. And I looked at his numbers and I'm like, okay, pretty similar. I had way higher average and I hit more homers and I had more RBIs, but he had a couple more doubles. And I was like, okay, comparable. But that just goes to show you year to year what the value of what you do is in baseball. And 2001 was a career year for me. And looking back at it, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but it probably was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, because then everybody expected you to go out and hit 30, 35 home runs every year and hit 325, 330 every year. And honestly, that wasn't me. I was a 280, 285 guy with 20 home runs and 80 RBIs. That was me. And I just had a phenomenal year. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I had a blast. I mean, I would trade it for a World Series title, but I can't do that. So I'll take what I did and move forward with it and appreciate it as, I get older.
So tell us about the Chardonnay, and then I'm going to ask you how Red Stitch came about and really when you got into wine. But tell us about the Chard.
So Chard, we started producing in 2013, and I know Gary's on this call. We get amazing fruit from Gary Francione from down in San Lucia Highlands. So when we started with the Chard, it was more of a project that none of us in our group really were huge Chardonnay fans. But if we would have a Chardonnay, we wanted it to be kind of a Burgundian style / California, like somewhere in between. And we wanted to just do like the ability to have dinners, like do 4-course dinners. Mm-hmm. So that's why we started doing Chardonnay in the first place. But the Chardonnay we get from Gary up there is truly phenomenal. And I think what we've done is we've tried to make it just really clean and crisp. Lot of just like, apple tart, like just not too much oak, not too much vanilla or caramel feel, but more of a crisp, clean type of Chardonnay with, hints of citrus and just a clean, clear color and nose to it, which I think we've accomplished. I think we're as a group right now, I think it's not our flagship wine or whatever, but I think right now, since it's the newest to our portfolio, as far as varietals go, we're really excited about how we can still play with it and change it and make it better from year to year.
I think it's got some great richness up front, but as you said, it comes through crisper on the finish, almost in the nose. The nose seems a bit richer, and then it really gets crisper and really begs for like some food.
Yeah. And there's some Chardonnays that I have that this doesn't feel heavy on my palate. There's some Chardonnays I have that just, and it could just be my palate, but I get almost like a petroleum type feel on my palate or on my tongue, where I think it mutes my taste buds, where I don't really get the full flavor of it. But the acidity is great. I think it just, cuts through a lot of stuff. And, for me, I'm a foodie too. So I love doing like for me, like with this, I would do like a Dungeness crab, like lettuce wrap type thing with some citrus on it, maybe a little heat. But they would complement each other perfectly.
You love to cook too, don't you?
Oh, I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I'm going to move into some Pinot and tell us how you got into wine, I guess, really. Did that start during your baseball career? And then how did Red Stitch come about?
Yeah. So I think going back, looking at, how I grew up in New York, right? I grew up in a Italian neighborhood. when I was growing up, I was lower middle class. My mom and dad worked. I was watched by my neighbor lady who was pretty much right off the boat from Naples. So everything in her household was like homemade. Like everything was fresh, homemade. And they also did like their own little basement wine. So from the young age, I knew exactly what it was. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of it. But no, and then you go to high school, college, and you kind of do like what every other athlete does. You drink some beer and you have some stupid kind of shots that they give you and whatever. But then when I finally got to San Francisco in my career, when I was entrenched there. My first year in '96, when I was there full time, I lived in Foster City, which is down south. Which, hey, the weather's way better. We drive up and it'd be 30 degrees different at Candlestick when we got there. But the next year, I decided, you know what, I'm a city guy. I want to live downtown. So I got a place downtown, and we played still a ton of day games at Candlestick. So after all those day games, I would just head to a restaurant, have dinner, great dinners, great wine lists. And that's when I kind of got introduced to wine, just like after a day game, having dinner, starting by the glass, trying different things, leaning on the wine directors or the sommeliers. And then by the time we moved to the new ballpark and I was still living downtown, I felt like I had a better grasp on it. And even when I left the Giants after '03, I was so into it that I was having wines shipped to me in Seattle, San Diego, Cincinnati, by a merchant in the city. And they'd send me different stuff all the time. So that was kind of like I grew into a wine lover. And then we fast forward to 2007. I signed back with the Giants after being gone for 3 years. And Dave Roberts, my business partner, or one of my business partners, signs as a free agent with the Giants for 3 years. And we have our press conference the same day. And Dave and I played against each other for years. Dodgers, Giants. Never talked to him. Dave will actually tell you, like, he hated me because Dave's a big talker. He's a friendly guy. And when I'm on the field, it was all business, you know, and he would say, I tried to say hi to Richie, and Richie wouldn't even talk to me. I'm like, yeah, well, you had the blue on and I had the orange and black. I'm not going to talk to you, dude. So we found out that night. We went to dinner afterwards, and we found out we were both wine lovers. And then, you know, we take wines on the plane for road trips. So Dave, myself, and Randy Wynn, we'd all bring 3 bottles of wine. We had a little case with glasses in it that we'd carry, and we'd take turns carrying it. And usually we do like 3 bottles per city if it was a 3-city trip. And then unfortunately next year, Dave had knee issues, had to step away from the game. And I think he was home for a few weeks. And he called me and said something about getting into the wine industry. I'm bored. I need to do something. And I don't even know if it was an invite, but I was like, I'm in. I'm going to do it with you. So that's basically how Red Stitch started. Then we were trying to like figure out who we were going to hire as a winemaker. And then we met our other partner, John Mysick. And John and Dave individually, before they even met, had a winemaker friend in common, Eric Bradley from Sojourn. So Eric set up these little after day game, bring them all back over $50 and under $50 or under $25. And so we'd have these blind tastings. So that's how we met John and Noel Mysick. And moving forward from there, we were all in, and we basically decided to hire Rolando Herrera as our winemaker.
And did you decide to start with Cab? Was that right?
I think at the time we were all pretty much like into little boutique Cabernets, like, you know, just small, family owned. So we were like, why don't we try and start with that? Rolando had the ability to source the fruit for us that we wanted or that would fit what we wanted. So we started with 150 cases of Cabernet in 2007. And that's really how we got going.
And Pinot then followed, and then Chardonnay?
Yeah, so in 2011, actually 2010, and Gary's on here, he'll remember this. I retired after '09, so I was broadcasting in 2010, and it was game 1 of the World Series, and I was out front doing the pregame show. And then when I was done, I actually had my family up there So I bought tickets to go to the game, and it was kind of a last minute deal. So like, I'm not kidding. I was like 10 rows from the top of the stadium watching game 1 of the World Series. And I'm sitting there and I get a tap on the shoulder. And it was a woman. She goes, "Are you Rich Aurilia?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Hi, I'm Rosella Francione." She goes, my husband, Gary, huge Giants fan, winemaker, vineyard owner, blah, blah. She goes, "I'm going to tell him that you're up here and we're going to switch seats." I'm like, "Well, where is he?" She goes, "Oh, he's like 5 rows behind the dugout or something like that." I'm like, "Oh, he's going to love you to bring him up here to the upper deck." But that's initially how I met Gary. And then the next year, my best buddy in the world, Dan Costa, he called me riding in the back of a pickup truck with Gary and Gary down in San Lucia and said, "Hey, do you want some Pinot Noir this vintage?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe. Yeah, hold on. Let me make some calls." So I called Dave and John, and they said yes. So we started sourcing fruit from the Sobranas vineyard in 2011. And then in 12, we started sourcing Pinot from Sierra Mar. So then at that point, after 12, we had, 3 SKUs, 2 varietals. And then that's when in 13, we were like, let's see if we can get some Chard, and let's see if Gary has some Chard down there. So we called Gary, and, he helped us out and hooked us up. So now now we have the 3 varietals. I want to say 5 SKUs under these 3 varietals, and just enjoying it. I've in the 12, 13 years that we've been doing this, I feel like I learn something every day. And I think that's key for me because it really keeps me going. I retired from my love of a career after 15 years just because you can't do it anymore physically. But now I have something that I'm as passionate about as baseball, and I love dealing with it every day.
So I still remember when I came down to San Diego and we came to Dave's house, and I brought a case of Pinot so that we could do a tasting of the different Pinots from Sobranas and I guess Sierra Mar. And, and I come up with a case so that we can do the tasting, and there are 5 of us all together. And y'all started out very kindly with a bottle of Dom, and not only did we taste from those 12 bottles, well, we drank the bottle of Dom, but we ended up drinking all 12 bottles also.
That was a long night.
Yeah, it was a long night.
I think Dave took 2 naps in the middle of that night in between wines.
I just remember waking up the next morning, I'm surrounded by uniforms and stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, where am I? How did I get here? What's going on? That was a rough one. So
yeah, I know. I mean, I look back to I think the first time we met Adam was actually at Wine Spectator, and I can't remember if it was in Vegas or New York. And Dan Costa was like, "You got to meet this guy. You got to come meet this guy." And I came up, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you were in your Siduri Man.
Yes, that was in New York. I know it was in Vegas. That was in Vegas. You're right. That was.
Yeah. So that's the first time we met, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in this Pinot Noir world. What's going on here?
I remember wearing that Superman, Siduri Man outfit and thinking, boy, I'm going to really stand out. And I'm walking through the casino like 3 days before Halloween, and I am like not even in the top 10% of the weirdest dressed people out and around at that point in time. It was, those things are fun though. I mean, it's the wine business can be a blast like that, where you can get out and you just take a chance, you do something silly, you get your name out there, and it's fun.
Yeah, and I remember that same day. I think I asked Dan because and I want to say I can't remember his name exactly. Is it Mac?
Yes.
So I'm like, why is that guy dressed like a farmer in overalls? And Dan's like, no, he dresses like that all the time at these things. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I thought it was a Vegas thing, but no, I mean, that's, going to those events and meeting everybody and kind of, and it's weird because I used to get that on the other side with baseball, where people would meet you and they'd be like, oh my God, they get all nervous in front of you. And now when we first got into this, we were on the other side, like Dave and I are like, oh my God, that's so-and-so. And that's, so we got all nervous. And I remember the first time we met Dan, we were that way. And we were like, oh my God, it's Dan Con, So it's funny how, you always hear that analogy, like, athletes want to be rock stars want to be athletes, and it works in a bunch of different ways.
Well, I remember it with like Maynard from Tool. He owns a winery in Arizona.
Stronghold, yeah. I went up to this tasting room up there.
And the same thing with Kyle McLaughlin, who owns a winery, I mean, from Twin Peaks and Sex and the City. Yeah. But they want to talk about winemaking. They don't mind talking about their acting or musical career, but really they're there to learn and to talk about wine.
Yeah. It's so great. And I think that's where we're at now, listen, Dave's in a different realm.
Right.
He has his day job, which is a pretty good gig he's got. But I think when he's away from that and we're together with John, that always comes out for us. We love meeting new people in the industry and making new friends.
So does Dave still take your calls now that he won a World Series? Is he?
He does, actually. It's funny. We did a Zoom the other night for a group. And, it's funny because I always ask Dave, like, even the World Series stuff, I see something and I call him the next day and I'd be like, hey, what was that all about? And he picks up and he answers, but I will give him this. This was a tough year with everything they had to go through.
Yeah.
They were bubbled in Texas for a month. With that. And I even asked him, like, my big question was, dude, where'd you guys stay and how'd you eat meals? And he's like, oh, it was actually a Four Seasons we stayed at. I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. I'm like, could you go eat? And he's like, no, they delivered everything to the room in boxes. So everybody on the team or a traveling party, like every morning, they'd get a breakfast box, they get a lunch box, they get a dinner box at night. So I give him credit for getting through that and really persevering. It was a rough year in that world, in the baseball.
Sure. It's been a rough
year in everybody's world.
Yeah,
but.
Exactly.
I know.
So tell me on the Pinot, is there a style? This is Rosellas too. So this is new for you, Rosellas, right?
This 18 Rosellas is the first vintage that we've made out of Rosellas. And again, I approached Gary and said, hey, we love the fruit you're giving us, but, is there somewhere we could maybe take a step up? Do you have any Rosellas available? And he said, yeah, what are you looking for? I told him. And he was gracious enough to get us in. Knowing other producers like yourself and, Costa Brown and that I've had out of Rosellas, I always felt like, well, one, San Lucia Highlands, I think the terroir lends itself to a total different profile than a Sonoma Coast or a Russian River, right? I just think it's totally, on its own island as far as the profile goes. But I always felt like Rosellas was a bigger, fuller bodied Pinot Noir with dark red fruit, and, just really intense, where you're almost like, are we sure that's really all Pinot Noir? Is there not something else in there? But that's something that we love because we were initially, cab lovers.
Sure.
So it's almost like a cab lover's Pinot Noir in a sense that the body is lighter than a cab, but the mouthfeel and the flavor profile, you get that really bright fruit in the front, like a bright cherry or cherry cola. But it has the ability to just cover all facets of your palate, and the finish of it is just amazing. And we were very, very happy with, this 18. And again, our winemaker, his first foray into Santa Lucia was in 11 with Sobranes and then Sierra Mar, but this was his first go at the Rosellas. And again, it's amazing for, we do a Rosellas and we do a Sobranes, which aren't very far apart, from, as a crow flies, but the two wines are totally different, where I feel like this is the darker, more, I guess, more sophisticated, more, uh, you know, just a different profile than the Sobranas. Where the Sobranas is, I know it's been the most consistent that we've done. We know we're getting every year, and it's a great wine. But again, it's a lighter bodied, it's a brighter fruit than the Rosellas is.
This also has some good acid, like the Chardonnay did too. I mean, and some of that I know is 2018. 2018 was a very cool vintage and an ideal vintage in some ways.
Yeah.
But I think this could really use some food too. I mean, it drinks well by itself, but I mean,
yeah,
if you did some food with this, it would show very, very well.
Oh, totally. Again, the foodie in me, I'm thinking like something lamb, rack of lamb, maybe some duck. But again, it's something that could, I think, even stand up to like a really like fatty ribeye because of the acid in it.
Yeah,
it could
you
just
can
cut
get
through that.
steaks these days. My son Christian's on here, and for Father's Day, he gave me some Wagyu, A5 Wagyu, and wasn't a bad Father's Day present.
Yeah.
And it was having that type of meat, fatty meat like that, could work really, really well with this too.
Yeah. And again, like the Chard in this, like for me, because I know these wines and I'm used to drinking them. Like for me, I could open these up. Like I love to open up a bottle of wine when I'm cooking dinner, regardless of what I'm cooking. If I feel like a Chard, I'll open up a Chard. I feel like a Pinot, whatever. And these are wines for me that like, I personally like, I'll just open them if we have somebody come over for a glass of wine, whatever. Cab's a different animal. That's a little bit bigger. And that's something that I feel like, that definitely needs some kind of, food to pair with it. Cause it's just such a big bodied, it's almost a meal in itself.
So I'm going to move into the 06 or 16 cab. I did have somebody who posted a question asking about the 09. They have a couple of bottles still. Have you had that recently?
Cab?
Yeah.
I think the last time I had an 09 cab was probably about a year ago. I would probably say, I mean, it was tasting very, very good at the time. I'd say like it's probably, hitting its peak right now. We're talking, 11, 12 years later almost. I'd say that'd be a perfect wine to open up for the holidays. And, if you have some, have it with your holiday meal. Again, I actually had two, though. I remember I had an 09, one of our Magnums.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the scheme of aging, a 750 is going to age different than a Magnum. And the Magnum I had was absolutely phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. Which I give all the credit to our winemaker, just in the fact that, he knows what our profile is and he knows what we like and we work with him on it. So he always does a fantastic job.
And so someone was asking about Rolando here and his background. He's with Sueño.
Yes, that's his label. Mi Sueño is Rolando's label since, I want to say 2000, maybe a little sooner.
Okay.
But Rolando's background, if you get a chance, look up his background. It's an amazing story. He's a Mexican immigrant, basically started washing dishes at La Berge in Napa, and was hired by Warren Winarski to build a retaining wall at his property at Stag's Leap. And Warren loved him so much, he basically hired him on to basically kind of just clean up around the cellar as a high school kid and kind of taught him how to make wine. So Rolando is not like, UC Davis trained or anything like that. He's trained by, just somebody, one-on-one with Warren. And then he'd gone on to be cellar master there. I think he was in charge of Paul Hobbs's Argentinian project for a while. Was at Vinecliff, Chateau Patel. And then he started Mi Sueño, which means my dream. And I mean, I look at that guy like family. I've known him now for 13 years. And, he's one of those guys I could say I leave my baby daughter with. for 2 weeks if I had to go somewhere. His wines for us were amazing. That's why we hired him. And honestly, I'll say this, going back to like how we started, we had the opportunity to have a lot of different winemakers. And granted, I knew it was because of who we were and what we did for a living. But Rolando was the only one that basically came to us and said, you know what, I'd be honored to make your guys' wine because I know you're not going to do it like, you're not going to half-ass it. You're going to do it the right way. And right there, I was sold. So he's been a dear friend of ours for 13 years. And I feel like he continues to surprise us every year with the quality wines that he's making.
So before everybody else came on here and you and I were talking, you were talking about going through and tasting every single barrel that you have, the work that you do there. Yeah. I think sometimes there are quote unquote celebrity winemakers. I mean, you're Rich to me, but you know, they're not that involved in some ways. That's not the case with you at all.
No, I feel like a lot of, I won't say, I'll just say athletes because it's what I know. Sometimes people just slap their name on something and, you know, just that's their wine. But I don't think, you know, they know where it's coming from. I don't think they go work harvest. I don't think they go do punch downs. You know, we try and get involved as much as we can in the process of it, just so we understand it and we could talk about it. So my last thing that I want to do is once I finally move up to Sonoma, probably next year, full time, that's when I really want to dive into like learning the winemaking process because I need to be there to do that. I can't just do it from afar, go in one day and I won't understand it. But as far as like you were saying earlier, we talked, a few years back, you know, now that we're growing our portfolio a little bit, we're still tiny, but you know, a few years ago, Rolando was like, you should come in and let's do a barrel sampling of every barrel of Pinot Noir that you guys have. Because at the time we were doing 3 Pinot Noirs and we did that. And the difference between the Coopers, the toast points of the barrels, if you're going to use toasted heads or not. I mean, it was amazing at the different levels of flavor profiles and what everything contributes to the flavors of your wine. I was just totally blown away by it.
Well, and that is something that we were talking about and we're comparing a little bit to being an athlete, but it's probably true to be top of your game if you're an accountant or anything else as well, is that these little details make all the difference in the final wine. I mean, you can get a very, very good wine. You can be a very good baseball player. You can be a very good accountant and all that. But to be to the top of the game, to make it into the major leagues, all that, you've got to the little things you got to perfect.
Yeah, and yeah, we discussed this. It's just small things, and you go from like, okay, it takes somebody really special to like, and I use baseball terms, to make it to the major leagues. But then that's when the hard work starts because it's harder to stay there than it is to get there. And then you look down the road where, you know, I told you this, I was a good player for a long time. I'll never call myself a Hall of Fame player because I'm not. I played a really long time. I had good numbers. I had some great years, and I'm happy with my career. But what's the difference between that and a Hall of Famer in baseball? It's actually like something like that much. I mean, something small. So whether it's health, whether it's opportunity, whether it's just a little bit of talent or whatever it is, it's just something small. It's not always a huge thing. And that's how I look at wine. It's not always a huge thing. It could be something small. It could be using, 40% new French oak instead of 50% new French oak. It could be, we're going to use toasted heads on this block and we're not going to use toasted heads on this block. I mean, it's something very small. And I really appreciate that now because when I was playing baseball, when you're playing, you don't really see that. You got blinders on and you're just like, play the game, do well, succeed, win. You don't really see all the little things. And I was fortunate enough in my career to play with, a lot of Hall of Famers. I played with Bonds. I played with Ichiro being a Hall of Fame, Jeff Kent should be in the Hall of Fame. I played with Griffey. And these were guys that just had something extra. You might not know what it is,
Sure.
but they had something extra. And that's what I look to attain as far as in the wine world is I want to get to that point where, you know, we do a really nice job, I feel like. But I want to get to that point where we can do something extra that turns us into that next level type winery or vintners.
So does the Cabernet come from a particular vineyard or a set of vineyards or?
So the cab is basically, so we source our fruit from Rolando's vineyard management company.
Okay.
He manages 11 or so vineyards in the Napa Valley. Most of the fruit that we get from him is Coombsville and Oakville and Oak Knoll.
Okay.
Again, this is not a estate single vineyard. This is a blend. And so every year we have the ability to kind of find exactly what we want and blend it to what we want. I think this particular vintage 16 was Coombsville and Oak Knoll.
Okay.
And what we always do is I go back to the blind tastings we did with John, Dave, and I, and Eric Bradley with Sojourn. The first one we ever did was a Malbec tasting. And just so happens that Rolando learned how to grow really good Malbec in Napa Valley through his project in Argentina with Paul Hobbs. He grows fantastic Malbec up there. So we always, it's an homage to how we all met, that we always blend a little bit of Malbec into our Cabernet. So in any given year, I'd say for the since 07 till now, every Cabernet has been at least 95% Cabernet. And then anywhere else, a blend of Malbec, Petit Verdot, here or there. So it's never really more than like 2% Malbec or, you know, so, but I think it does come across in the, you know, in the nose and in the flavor profile of the wine.
I mean, I love it. I think it's showing really, really well. And not overly tannic by any means.
No, the 16 isn't as tannic as some of our other ones that we've made. I mean, you know, our 15 and historically looking back, 15, 10, and 07s were like just huge. They were huge. But again, that lends itself to aging really well. So, but this 16, it's really approachable right now.
Yeah.
I feel. And again, I'd like something to eat with it, but you know, if you have another couple over and you got 4 of you to drink a bottle of wine, that's just one big glass apiece. So you can go in and polish that off pretty easily.
I noticed on the mailing list that you've got a deal going these days too, where it's like autograph bottles and autograph mags. I don't know if you sold out of those or not, but I mean, it was a neat offer that you had.
Yeah. So every Christmas or holiday season, I'll say, we do etched magnums of the Cabernet. You know, the wax on the top and the etched bottles, and we all go up and we all sign them. Wood box, whole, you know, try and dress it up really nice for the holidays. And so we do that every Christmas. We also have some signed 750s that we did, maybe like 6 or 7 cases of them that are on the site too. But we actually have something pretty cool coming up probably in the spring. You know, this as a businessman, you try and take advantage of every opportunity to, you know, sell wine, especially in these times. So Dave winning the World Series, since he's number 30, we had him do 30 Cab Magnums numbered and 30 Pinot Noir Magnums that we have numbered, just, you know, 2020 World Series champs. So I think we're going to release those probably towards springtime, like maybe spring training time. But we try and be creative every either holiday or put together a package or something just to make it special. And, you know, we've done it for years, and we'll continue to do it because it seems to do pretty well for us. And they're still on the site too right now.
So I just put down the website for everyone who's here who doesn't know it. To go to redstitchwine.com and you can get signed up there. Tell us then what's and we're kind of running out of time, but quickly, what's next for you? I know COVID's kind of put a crimp in your ability to go travel around and introduce Red Stitch to people, that kind of thing. But you do a lot of online stuff.
Yeah, we've been trying to like be active online, whether it's social media or Zoom or trying to do some tastings. You know, I think this is going to be, even when stuff gets back to normal, I think this is going to kind of still be a part of our lives with doing online stuff. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of corporate things come up that we've done this year with companies, with tastings. But moving forward, you know, unfortunately for us this year, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people, the 2020 vintage, we won't be producing any Pinot Noir just based off the fires.
Same thing with Clarice. Yeah.
Yeah, with smoke taint. Yeah, Tony too. I mean, it is what it is. And you move forward and you look forward to the next vintage. So moving forward to the next vintages, I mean, you know, we're just hoping that we're good next year, and you know, we're going to continue with our SKUs that we have and possibly, you know, come up with some new different ideas as we move forward. But we're totally entrenched in this, and we love what we do every day.
So to follow some of the things you do online and all that, follow you on Instagram or?
Yeah, you could follow Red Stitch Wine on Instagram or Facebook. And then honestly, like my personal Facebook, I think Instagram is Rich Aurilia 35. I think actually I'm you know what it is now with the phones, you don't even know what it is anymore. You just click on it.
I can look it up.
But I think my icon is like a picture of my bobblehead.
Okay.
So that's the one. And then on Facebook, yeah. And I, you know, every once in a while, like, you know, earlier this year, I did some cooking stuff on there. You know, it's just fun.
Well, you and Dan did a fun cooking one together. I remember.
We did.
That was really enjoyable. So.
And I look forward to doing more of those because I think, you know, it may not be a huge group of people, but you know what? If you enjoy it and you're killing some time and you're making some good food and drinking some good wine, that's all you really want.
Yeah, and you get the right group of people together, and they're going to be fans forever, and you're going to care about what they're doing, and it's a family here ultimately of people that love wine together.
Yeah, and I'll say this: what I've really learned over the years of the wine industry. I mean, I know it's very competitive, but you could see with our interactions, and I know Tony, and I know Gary, and Costa, and all these guys. I mean, Mark McWilliams with Arista and Jake Bilbro at Limerick Lane. Like, it is a very competitive business, but at the same time, I think everybody's out to help each other. And I've really felt that as a small family-run winery. And it's really meant a lot to me to rely on guys like you and Dan and Tony and Gary for advice, because if it wasn't for you guys, we may not still be around. So that really means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. You know, things like this to do and to spread the good word about wines, man.
Well, we appreciate you too. And when you do get out here, you had one offer from the Bookers here to say you could be a harvest intern for them if you want to come work when you're out. And
I'm in.
Yeah, there you go. But let's get together when you are up in town here and we're able to all hang out a lot. So
yeah, absolutely. I don't know when that's going to be, being a Phoenician. So hopefully it'll be very soon. And again, thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for joining. It's been great.
Thank you all. Cheers here. Everybody, I'll unmute everyone, and cheers. Thank you very much for being here.
Adam, thanks for moderating. Very well done.
Of course. Take care, y'all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys.
Good holidays if I don't see you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Cheers, Adam.
Cheers. Good to see you, Diane.
Cheers,
We
guys.
got two of them. We got the 18 SLH and we have the 17 Garys.
Wow, great.
I know.
Adam, somebody asked if I did have your wines in the
Oh, yeah, I
background.
saw
Yes, I do.
Saw them.
Yeah,
Right there.
that's great.
I took them out of my
Definitely.
wine fridge and I put them up there for you.
Thank you. I appreciate the
They're
background.
empty, right?
No, the one that's empty is not here. But I'll tell you what, man. I had some Clarice before, and it's fantastic. And then I told you I had the Beaumarchais last week, the Sobranes.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we make a Sobranes out of there too. And it just goes to show you the difference in a winemaking process and perception of how to make a wine. It was totally different than what we produce. So it's a great study in winemaking. And I know, Tony, I know you enjoy that. And
Yeah.
it's just a blast. And dude, I can't wait to move up there so I can take part in some of those lunches, dude. I'm jealous.
We can't wait to have you and actually RSVP with a yes.
I'm stuck in the desert, dude. I'm afraid to come up there because I'm gonna have to quarantine for 14 days, and
Yeah.
I already had it. So I'm like, what's going on, man?
Those are epic. Those are epic lunches. So
Adam
can't
knows.
wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Soon enough, brother.
Yeah. But happy holidays.
Yeah.
Amen.
Cheers.
And thank you all for being here.
you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for sharing with us tonight, you guys. It was fascinating. Super fun.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
I spent a lot of time at Candlestick as a kid, and it's great to talk to you. Thanks for coming out, Rich.
Thank you. And I'll be there for a harvest at some point.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.